friends. I'm so happy to have you here with us and welcome to our podcast, Viva la Evolution. We came up with that name because we wanted to have the energy of a revolution, but we wanted to hold it in the heart of an evolution. So we're not revolting, we're evolving. We're becoming more of who we were meant to be, and we're doing it in a way that brings us together as opposed to pulling us apart. How's that for being innovative? Okay, so just so you know, I'm really nervous and I'm gonna have to keep looking at my notes. So I think I'll probably get over that, but right now I'm not over it, so that's how it's gonna be. Just to explain a little bit about where the heck Viva la Revolution evolution came from. It was the brainchild of Recovery and Resilience Solutions, which is a training consulting arm of Crestwood Behavioral Health. And so we do a lot of training around the country and consulting. So we get to meet a lot of different people. And we're also doing a lot of creative, innovative stuff within the Crestwood programs. So we got to thinking, how do we pull this material together in a way that we can all share in? And how do we bring other people in so we can all add to this collective bank of information? And so we came up with, well, I know, we'll write a blog. Well, a blog kind of just sits there, doesn't move around. So I thought, well, what if we add some video to the blog? And then we thought, well, what's a podcast? Maybe we'll do a podcast. And so then we decided to do this, and I don't know what it is. It might be a blogcast pod or something like that. Doesn't matter, but just trying to get oriented. So that's where we are, and we want to keep expanding the conversation, bringing you in, us telling stories, and also we wanted to have a platform where we could support each other. I mean, most of us have been around long enough that we've had periods of being really discouraged, feeling unsupported, feeling like no one was listening. So how can we create a way to be together where we can encourage each other and support each other? So two things, right? Share information, expand information as we collect it together, and support each other in the process. It's sort of a little, if you've ever done an ethnographic study, like a research study that uses an ethnographic approach, it's all about talking to people instead of counting numbers. Well, that's kind of what we're doing, but we don't have to worry about all the things that research has to worry about. We're just going to be ourselves, tell stories, learn from each other, and put it together into something that makes sense and support each other in the process. So that's pretty much what we're doing. That's what we're all about. We'll be meeting on a regular basis. I'll tell you more about that because that hasn't been all worked out yet. But you can count on us to show up regularly. I don't know if it's going to be once a week, every 2 weeks, or what it's going to be, but you can count on us to do that. We'll be there for that. The other thing that I think will give us some freedom is we don't have to worry about being linear. Those of you who know me know I can't do that anyway. So we might go back and tell a story that happened in 1993 and link it to something that's happening in the future or the present. So we can go all over with the time. The idea is to just pull stuff together and not worry about how we're going to organize ourselves, because that kind of limits things if we start off that way. So no boxes initially. We're going to tell organizational stories. We're going to tell stories that happen all around the world because we have folks that want to play with us who are in other countries. We've got a lot of friends in Singapore, a lot of friends in New Zealand, a lot of different states, a lot of friends in Canada. So we're all going to be coming together, adding to this soup of inspirational innovation and support. Sound pretty good, huh? I mean, I'm liking it. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of what we're up to. And the next thing I want to do, two more things to do today. One is I'm going to show you a clip. It's just 5 minutes of me telling you about my own experience of recovery. There's a lot more to tell than 5 minutes because I'm not one of those people that recovered. I just keep recovering, kind of falling down, recovering, falling down, recovering. So I've learned a whole lot in that process. Anyway, that's how we're going to do this. I'll show you the little clip. You get that in your mind. And then I want to end today by telling you a story about the magic one person can bring in creating a recovery-based culture. So get ready for that. We'll do the clip, 5 minutes, and then I'll tell you the story. Okay, here's the clip. Hello, I'm Lori Ashcraft, and I'm going to be your guide through a series of podcasts describing the process of recovery, in this case, from behavioral health issues. And behavioral health covers not just mental health issues, but also substance issues. But as you listen to us over the period of time we're with you, you'll find that the things we talk about regarding recovery relate to life in general. So anything you need to recover from will be helped by what we're saying. Just want to tell you a little bit about my own experience of recovery. I think I was probably born with vulnerabilities toward behavioral health issues. And then I had a lot of trauma in my life when I was a child. And that trauma kind of opened the pathway to those vulnerabilities. And to tell you the truth, I've been struggling with them my whole life. Sometimes it's been easier than other times. Sometimes it's been almost impossible. But here I am. So I'm kind of a living testament to the fact that recovery is possible. And just a little bit of history about me. I would say, again, early childhood trauma. And if you were to give me that ACE test, I would have flunked it because I think I had just about every one of those indicators. And I have a lot of friends that say the same thing. So it's really possible to recover even though you got a bad score on your early childhood situations. I then went on to, finish high school and college, and I got a bachelor's degree, which qualified me to work in a welfare department. This was the beginning of my human service career, was in a welfare department. And I met so many amazing people there, people who, could have easily been diagnosed if someone had pulled out their DSM, but they were living in the community, struggling, doing the best they could under really extremely difficult circumstances. And my role was to support them, connect them to resources, and to help them in any way I could. And to tell you the truth, I didn't have a clue as to what to do. So all I knew to do was just to love them and respect them and to do whatever I could to be helpful. I didn't know it at the time, but that's exactly the way we help people recover. And I did it out of a deficit of being trained in anything else. But it helped, and that was my early learning experience. the stress of all of this started bringing out my own, let's call it symptomatology, just because we probably all know what that means. And I really struggled a lot with depression and anxiety, especially depression. And it wasn't until maybe 10 or 12 years later that I had a boss who was a psychiatrist. By now I was working in a mental health field. And he suggested that I take some medication. And he did this not to be mean or to point out that I had anything wrong with me, because he liked my work, but he could see how I was struggling. So I started taking medication. And at first, and these, you know, back in those days, gosh, this was probably 30, 40 years ago. The medications were not near what they are today. There was no laser focus. It was just a crapshoot. Try this one. If it didn't work, try that one. So after a few months of just struggling through wrong medications and medication changes, I came upon one that seemed to really help me. And within a few weeks, I felt better than I had for a really long time. And I just remember thinking, this is how other people feel. This is how normal people feel. They don't have to cope with this constant sadness and negativity and lack of energy that comes with depression. So that helped me a lot. But I wouldn't say it helped me recover. It helped me sustain. It helped me function. And it wasn't until probably the year, maybe 1995, I started talking a lot with the people at Boston University, Leroy Spaniel, Dory Hutchinson, and of course, Bill Anthony. And they were talking about recovery. And I realized that that was a whole new concept for me. I hadn't thought about recovering. I just thought about, I don't know, coping with things. And when you're coping with things, it's like you never know when a symptom is going to jump out and scare you and scare everybody else. So to think that I could recover was just an amazing insight. It took me to a whole new level of thinking. So I read everything they'd written about this, and started thinking about how I could recover. And it was just a little by little, I started gaining confidence that I didn't need to see myself as a mental patient who, because of medication, could cope. I could start to see myself as a unique human being with my own set of gifts and contributions that I could use to help myself and help other people. And then I realized that if I could recover, other people could recover. And my husband, Gene Johnson, he'd recovered from substance use. So we had this idea that if we could recover, other people could recover. And that was the beginning of our work in recovery. Started about the year 2000. We got a little grant to train peers, and this was in Phoenix, Arizona. We trained about 17 peers and hired them. I think we hired about 10 of them. And they started teaching us more about recovery and how to have recovery-oriented programs. And I would just say the rest is history, and we're going to be telling you more about that journey, more about other people's journeys. We just have a lot to tell you. We're going to talk about recovery cultures. We're going to talk about recovery leadership. We're going to talk about how to get back up when you fall down. Just a lot of stuff. So I hope you'll come back every time we have something to say and learn more about what we're up to. Right now, the most exciting work we're doing is with Crestwood Behavioral Health. which is a large mental health program in the state of California. And we're doing some things there that I think most of the world never thought possible. So stand by for all the exciting things that are going to come up during that conversation. Thanks very much, and stay tuned. Okay, so the story about recovery culture. So, as I mentioned, I end up going to the ER at least once a year for the last 6 years. It's always a good idea because they always find things that could have gone really wrong if I didn't. So the last time I went, I had this amazing experience. First of all, let me explain what the ER looks like. I live in a little tiny town. The ER waiting room is kind of like a wide hallway, and it's always full of people. So the chairs are lined up on each side of the hallway. So we're facing each other in the hallway. And the hallway is maybe, I'm going to say it's like 35 or 40 feet long. So it's a long, skinny room. And I'm about halfway in the middle of this hallway. And I'm scared and I'm in pain. And I've been waiting a while, getting a little cranky. I've already sent my husband away because I thought no reason for us both to be miserable. So I suggested he go get a sandwich someplace. So I'm there by myself. Across from me is a person who is just kind of a crumple. There's a backpack and a bunch of jackets or something, and a little face. And I don't even know the sex of this person. But I can see that they're in at least as bad a shape as I'm in. And before long, this person, a water bottle falls out of this crumpled mass and falls to the floor. And it kind of wakes everybody up. And the person whose bottle it was looks up and notices that his water bottle's fallen to the floor. I notice the water bottle. People around are noticing the water bottle, but nobody does anything. I'm thinking, I could pick that water bottle up, but it would hurt. It would hurt to stand up and bend over and pick it up. And it's not my water bottle. Why would I? I'm just going to sit here. Probably everybody else had a similar story that they told themselves. There's this one man who's sitting way down at the very end of the waiting room. And he's kind of created a little nest down there. There's all kinds of stuff around him. And the way he's handling his stress is every few minutes he gets up and he shuffles down the whole length of the room to the other end, and he shuffles back. He's got a cane. He's about 6'4", weighs probably 250 pounds, and all kinds of different clothes on him, jackets and things, scarves, things hanging around. And he shuffles back and forth down the hall. So it's time for him to launch his pilgrimage once again. And he begins walking from his nest at the end toward the other end of the room. And when he gets to my part there in the middle of the room, he looks down at the water bottle. And he looks at it, and he looks at me, and he looks at the crumpled person, and he looks back at the water bottle. And by now, we're all wondering what he's going to do. And he starts to bend over to pick up the water bottle. And it's very, very slow. He starts to bend at the waist. And when he's gotten as far down as he can with that, he begins to extend his arm. And he extends it as far as he can, but he's still about 8 inches away from the water bottle. And by now, we're all wondering what's going to happen. Worst case scenario, he's going to topple over head first. He's going to stand back up. We don't know. But he puts a final push into this and bends himself over that final 8 inches. And his long fingers latch around that water bottle. And he starts his ascent back up to a standing position, which is almost as slow as it was going down. He's hanging on to his cane with one hand, pulling himself up and slowly rising. And when he gets to a full standing position, he takes the water bottle and he hands it to the crumpled person, who takes it. And then he goes like that. Okay, we did it. And everyone in the waiting room clapped. Everybody clapped. It pulled us together in a way that nothing else could. And it came from the person who was least likely to be able to do that, which made it even better. That's how a recovery culture begins. One person has the courage to step out, and possibly at great expense to themselves, is willing to take the challenge that none of the rest of us would take, and pick up whatever it is that got dropped and hold it up so the rest of us can see that it's possible and know that we can all do it. So that's just a peek at how to begin a recovery culture. It doesn't start with the building or the policies or the shrubs. It doesn't start with the uniforms or the pills or the shots. A recovery culture starts in someone's heart. And the more hearts that touch it, the better chance we have of creating a setting where people feel safe to recover, safe to be at risk of taking that recovery step. So we're going to continue this conversation about how to have a recovery culture. Next time, I've got 2 or 3 people lined up who could do a great job with this. I just have to pick one and we'll go with it. But stick with us because we're going to explore this really in depth. We're going to learn about it. We're going to live it. We're going to taste it. We're going to feel it. And then we're going to do it. Okay? All right, friends. Love you lots. See you next time.